Fins up, Badger fans. How do the Wisconsin Badgers deal with the mobility of Dequan Finn? We're going to find out tomorrow. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Harings. Excited to be here. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. Today's episode, we are talking Miami, Ohio football preview. The game is tomorrow. Cannot wait to see this game. And we got a great guest coming on. We got Ted Brennan, former host of Miami Sports Podcast, the Red Brick Recap. So he's going to be able to fill us in what this team is like. I think we got to start here, man. First of all, appreciate you being here. Football is almost back. It's already started for some. Dequan Finn is a player Badger fans kind of know from a tertiary standpoint because he was a target, at least in some regards, with in the portal for the Badgers at quarterback. What is he like for you guys in this offense, and what are you expecting out of him tomorrow?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's always a good time to talk Miami football. So the thing about Dequan Finn is that Miami fans should know him pretty well. Faced him in the MAC championship game 2 years ago, or almost 3 years ago at this point. And I mean, Dequan Finn is one of those rare quarterbacks that you can truly say is a dual threat quarterback. He adds a level of dynamicism to the RedHawk offense that we really haven't seen since the Avion Smith experiment. And I say experiment because he was only thrown in due to injuries due to Brett Gabbert. And even before Gabbert's injuries, he was much more mobile, which helped him propel himself to a win of the MAC Freshman of the Year in 2019. So this is really a completely new situation for head coach Chuck Martin to be in, because he's got this guy who's coming to his school for the first time, but there's a real level of familiarity with him. And I mean, he knows the offense as much as, some of the returning players know the offense, just because he's seen it before. And Martin has a very tried and true method of run the damn ball. It'll be really interesting to see, because Finn he leads the nation in most touchdowns by a returning player with 93. And he's just really a weapon out of the backfield as much as he is with his arms. And that's just something you just have not seen from a Miami quarterback in quite some time.
By the way, Badger fans are very familiar with the concept of just run the damn ball. Like, that is a long staple of this program, obviously. Yeah, what are you expecting from him, from a run pass split? Is this going to be an offense where or Coach Martin wants him to maybe save the legs a little bit more, to take less shots? What do you expect there?
It's interesting because it's almost a completely new offense, from every skill position, and even up and down the off the line. I think there's one, maybe two returning starters or guys who got starts last year on that offensive line, and every skill position is different outside of the running back, with Kenny Tracy coming back. But Kenny Tracy did not play at all last year because of a torn ACL. So it stinks to say that I really don't know. Because we've never seen Chuck Martin with this type of quarterback, right? With Brett Gabbert before his injuries, it was pretty evenly split between shots down the field and running some options here and there. But he really used Gabbert's arm more than anything else. And then with Avion Smith, it was, Smith is not the most talented passer in the world. But he could really run the rock. And I mean, you saw it in the MAC championship game a couple of years back against Toledo. Avion Smith broke off I want to say it was a 63-yard rushing touchdown from the quarterback position, which is really just special. So I think it's going to be a lot of growing pains early on. I think you're going to have to find that balance of Finn, coming out of the backfield and the option plays. And then, you're going to always have to account for his arm, because he's got one of the better arms in the MAC, I would say, for sure. So I think you're probably going to see more of a 50-50 split this first time around, just to see what works, what doesn't. But as we get deeper and deeper into the season, I would expect it's going to be a lot of option, and then it's really going to be like, okay, option, deep pass, option, deep pass, right? Just really keep the defense on their toes, not knowing what to expect.
What is the general expectation for the program this year? Coming off a pretty good season last year, obviously Coach Martin's been in college football for 30 years. He understands what he wants to do. Second in the MAC last year. What does the program look like this year, and what are the expectations?
I mean, I think the vibes are pretty high, all things considered. Again, coming off of two straight MAC championship appearances with one win, obviously having a really, really embarrassing loss last year. And I say embarrassing, and I mean it was a beatdown of 38-3 was that final score against Ohio. Obviously, people know it from the Tim Chalamet pick. Chalamet picked Ohio over the rest of the college football analysts during championship weekend. But I think it's probably another championship or bust type of year. Anything less than a MAC championship appearance would be very disappointing, just given the state of this roster, how much talent they have, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but the defense. The defense is it's a mixture of guys who weren't starring last year, but they were very solid and can be stars this year. And and the secondary is an area to watch because it's got three returning starters, but the missing starter that they're missing is Ryan Strader, who transferred to Auburn this off season. But they have a very, very strong secondary, which should be very fun to watch. So I think the vibes are high. I think the media, the overall college football landscape is underrating us in the MAC conference itself. I think they had Toledo in Ohio in the MAC championship game was their preseason preview. Miami was like 9-3. So I think anywhere 9-3 to 11-1 is something that I think the RedHawks really should be striving for.
Yeah, I love it. What are some other offensive pieces? I want to talk some offense, defense, and then kind of some bigger picture thoughts in this game. What are some other offensive pieces you're excited about, Badger fans should know about?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, we've already talked a little bit at length about Daquan Finn. I mentioned Kenny Tracy coming off of a torn ACL. Kenny Tracy, if that name sounds familiar, he's been with the program for about 5 years. He is the little brother of Tyrone Tracy Jr., the Giants running back, former Purdue Boilermaker. And then he's the older brother of Minnesota wide receiver Javon Tracy, who was at Miami last year and transferred to greener pastures. But Kenny Tracy is the only running back in that room right now that I think I can fully say that Chuck Martin trusts. It's a very young room with a lot of new faces. And then there's the always reliable Kenny Tracy. He was supposed to have a breakout last year, tears his ACL. I think this could be a very big year for Kenny Tracy, especially with the volume that Chuck Martin's running backs get. I mean, it's 2 straight years we've had a 1,000-yard rusher. Rashad Amos 2 years ago, Keon Mosey last year, and Keon Mosey, nobody expected him to break out. So I think Badgers fans should be they should know the name Kenny Tracy. They're going to hear it a lot coming up. And then, as I mentioned, this wide receiver room is almost completely brand new. They got the returner, Cam Perry. He's coming back. He was a very, very nice piece for them, slot receiver. But he might get phased out of the offense a little bit because they brought in three massive wide receivers. Deion Colsey from Notre Dame. This guy is 6'4", fifth-year senior. Didn't play a whole lot at Notre Dame, but obviously that pedigree holds a lot of weight. He's going to be probably the deep threat, I would say. Again, 6'4", you're going to be leaping up for those end zone shots. The Andre Johnson experiment failed last year, so really don't mess this up with Deion Colsey. Cordell Russell comes from Colorado. Darian Williamson comes from FSU. They're both 6'4", 6'3", respectively. They can really be used in that passing game. Keith Reynolds, perfect slot receiver and kick returner. He's going to make up for the loss of Cade McDonald, who graduated. And Keith Reynolds comes from Washington, if I remember correctly. And then there's two redshirt freshman tight ends that are really interesting, and Brody Cozen and Grant Leeper. The offense, loses again a big target in Jack Coldiron, but they love running these two tight end sets. Part of it is because they love to run the ball, so they're always disguising these kind of two tight end sets as run plays. But they're both, former Big Ten. They're still very, very young, but they should get a lot of looks in this offense as the season progresses.
Tremendous insight, Ted. I want to take one quick second here. We're going to come back and talk about Chuck Martin, the coach of Miami, Ohio, the defense, and then what we may be looking for in this game, some keys to the game. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. Quick second to always say thank you for tuning in. Really quick question, Badger fans. Are you paying full price for gas? Are you still going to the gas station and doing full prices? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app from the App Store, Google Play right now, and start earning cash at the pump today. You got to go there anyway. You might as well get a little bit back. Use my limited time promo code football and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already need. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make your daily commutes. You do it anyway. What could you do for $300? Maybe you could, buy some stuff for the Badger Man Cave, whatever it is. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app today using my limited time promo code football for a limited time 25 cents per gallon bonus. Promo code football. Disclaimer, offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Today's episode also brought to you by our good friends over at Supply House. You're not going to find a better spot anywhere if you're trying to get a new repair or get your crew moving forward than Supply House. Order today, see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, electrical items from your most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory, honest lead times keeps you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service is always covering your blind side. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has you covered. Next day delivery, it's a game changer. Right now, join the Trade Master program for free. Score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And today's episode also brought to you by one of my favorite sponsors that we ever have, because I use this service all the time. It's Game Time. If you need tickets, go over to Game Time and you're going to get all the tickets to all the events that you want. I've used this service. I've used it for Badger tickets. That's how I'm going to the game tomorrow. I got those tickets on Game Time, but I've also used it for Atlanta Braves tickets, other sporting events. Plus, they have concerts, theater. They have everything on there you need to do more things in life. You get pictures of the tickets before you sit down. The graphical user interface is really easy to use. It's simple to fire up. Head over to Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create the account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Let's jump back into this. I want to ask you this, man. And again, really appreciate the time and taking time out of your day to come on here. What is the coach like? Like, who does he remind you of? I mean, obviously, coach has been there for a long time. He's been in college football for 30 plus years. What is his demeanor like?
So I think a lot of people see Chuck Martin, their first exposure to Chuck Martin was last year. I know SportsCenter posted the clip or something, but Chuck Martin was interviewed by a local news station, and he was talking about the transfer portal and NIL and all that stuff. And he said, Alabama stole our kicker, Graham Nicholson. He won the Lou Groza Award 2 years ago in 2023, transfers to Alabama. And most of people's exposure to him is him saying, "Oh, Alabama stole our kicker," and they see him on the sidelines in the sweater vest, and he's always yelling. He's always, he's just always very animated. But in my little interactions with Chuck Martin, he's genuinely one of the most fascinating minds in college football. But he's just a really genuine person. He's always at Miami sporting events. This is a guy who lives and breathes Miami sports. I mean, he's constantly involved in just anything and everything that's Miami. And, that's all you want to see in a coach, right? You want to see the coach showing up, supporting other teams, because Miami sports is really on the up and up in the last couple of years. The basketball team just had an incredible season, both men's and women's team. Our swim and dive team is always incredible. Our volleyball team's getting better. All these teams, or our field hockey team has won like 11 straight conference tournaments. So, I mean, he's always there, right? And that's just exactly what you want to see out of your quote unquote moneymaker program. So he's you see him as kind of a crotchety old man in some of the viral videos of his, but he's really just this genuine guy, and he's just got a really fascinating mind when you pick his brain about college football. I mean, this is a guy who's seen a lot, he's done a lot. This is a guy who's coaching in the national championship game in 2014 for Notre Dame, even though they got absolutely killed in that game. But he's just a very fascinating guy.
And that's what you're dead right. You want your coach to be all in when he's there, and it sounds like that's who he is. I want to talk about the defense quick, but I'm fascinated to get your take on this. From just a school that is at a smaller conference, maybe doesn't have the footprint from a football program that a school like Wisconsin has. What is the transfer portal to you guys? How do you look at it as a Miami of Ohio fan? Obviously, you mentioned you pulling in receivers from Colorado, Washington, FSU. What is your perspective here on this?
I mean, transfer portal, I think, we have a very similar opinion that a lot of other schools have, right? It's, you want your players to play well, but not too well where they get, sniped by other programs. I mean, we had a season last year where we had two wide receivers. I think they both finished with about 900 receiving yards, almost 1,000 each. And that was Javon Tracy and Reggie Virgil. And those are two guys where you're like, oh man, junior and sophomore, if we can get them back next year, imagine how good we're going to be. And then all of a sudden it's Reggie Virgil going to Texas Tech and Javon Tracy going to Minnesota. And, it really makes or break your program every single year. But I think somebody like Chuck Martin, who is one heck of a recruiter. I mean, this is a guy who can recruit very, very well. I mean, we lost probably, I would say, 6 impact players from the transfer portal, and we picked up 13 to replace those 6. So I think he's done a very, very good job of working the portal. But again, it might be this year we have a really great portal class, and the next year maybe not so much. It really is a year by year um, go around, but I'd say we're very similar to other smaller schools where it's like we want our players to play well so we can get to the conference championship. But if they get to the conference championship, then they get the national exposure and coaches start looking. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I think Miami has a nice NIL collective being set up and really getting, these athletes rewarded for sticking around at Miami.
Great answer. Talk to me about defense. What kind of defense are the Badger fans expecting to see? Is it aggressive? Is it blitzing? Is it bend but don't break? And then who are a couple key guys on that side for you?
Absolutely. Chuck Martin prides himself on his defense. His defense is the one that, at points last year in my 4 years at Miami, it's always been defense first. And this is a very bend, don't break type of defense. Last year, this defense kept them in it with Notre Dame into the fourth quarter. It was a very close game until the fourth quarter. This is a team that competes with Cincinnati almost every other year. So it's going to be close for the first half, and I will warn Badgers fans that it's going to be close and it's going to be ugly for the first half. The second half is where I wonder, how much of the Big Ten pedigree that Wisconsin has will start to show through. But don't be surprised if Miami's able to keep it within a possession or two. And names to watch out for on that defensive side. First and foremost is Cam Wilson, big transfer pickup from Cincinnati and Louisville. This is a massive, massive pickup in the trenches. We, lose a decent amount of linebacking help. So just to be able to have a guy on that front four as big as Cam Wilson, I think he's 6'3", probably, I think he's 285 of like pure muscle. So, that's a guy who really can plug up the middle, and he's going to pair up really nicely with Nasir Washington. Those are going to be two guys up the middle where if they're, if they are on their A games, you're not getting up the middle, and then you're going to have to go to the outside. I'm excited to see what Javon Hammonds does on the outside. This is a guy that is really highly respected in that locker room. He's very, very young, but he's somebody who can really, again, I am a little bit removed from the team right now just because I'm graduated and everything. So I don't know if Hammond is going to start, but this is a guy who, if it's not this year, then it's definitely next year. From the linebacking core, Adam Trick. He played a lot alongside Ty Wise and Matt Solopek last year, but now he's going to be the guy because they both have moved on in their careers. So this is, Adam Trick is going to be the linebacker to watch. And then, the secondary is something that I really, really love. I mentioned it earlier, but we lose a guy like Ryan Strader who, congrats to him at Auburn. I know he's getting a bag to go play there, but 3 of our 4, corners and safeties are coming back. We have one of the best, safety pairings in the MAC, and I'll put that up there. Like, this is not me trying to be biased or whatnot, but this is one of the best safety pairings in the MAC, and Silas Walters and Eli Blakey. These are guys who can roam the field so effectively, and they will make your life hard coming over the top. And then Luke Evans, this is a guy that me and my co-host Jack Mueller would talk about at length on our podcast. A year ago. He is young, but he was really effective as a CB2 last year. And in the transfer portal, Miami didn't really pick up anybody of note in the secondary outside of Coy Beasley. But I don't know how much he'll play. And he's also he's very good as a single high safety. He was like a top 10 prospect coming out of high school. So he's either going to be like that single high safety that we've seen Jalen Ramsey being playing for the Steelers in minicamp, or he's going to be a sub linebacker. I think he's going to be good at either one of those spots. It's just a matter of how many snaps he gets being blocked by Blakey and Walters. But again, Luke Evans, this is the guy who can step into that CB1 role and be very effective. He's got good length, he's got good size, and he's got really, really good instincts, which is, really hard to find in a cornerback so young like Luke Evans.
Man, that's a tremendous breakdown. A couple quick questions to bring this kind of full circle and wrap it up. Offensively, Badgers' new offensive coordinator, Coach Jeff Grimes, comes in. He wants to turn Wisconsin into a version of what they've done in the past. They want to run the ball. They want to be really physical up front. They want to run between the tackles. Does Miami of Ohio hold up for 4 quarters against a pretty good Wisconsin offensive line and a couple pretty talented running backs?
I think in this game, it's probably 3 quarters. I think Miami probably holds for about 3 quarters. This is on both sides of the ball. It's a very new front line. So it's something that, Chuck Martin has not had to deal with in the last couple of years because it's been a lot of the same players up front. So I think, it's probably about 2 to 3 quarters where Miami holds up. And again, I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I know Badgers fans don't want to hear that, but I hope I'm wrong. But I would say probably about 2 to 3 quarters. Again, like I said, that first half is going to be ugly. It's going to be gross, and that's the style of football that Chuck Martin loves. He is, we won a game against UMass last year, and the final score was 23-20. Nobody scored a touchdown until the fourth quarter. So it was just, an ugly game for sure. So I think, Martin's going to want to have that style of play, especially against the Badgers. And if, the Badgers want to run the ball, we'll run the ball right back at them. This isn't an offense that shies away from running the ball at all. So, and that was, we had been chatting earlier, and one of the questions you had asked is how could Miami spring the upset? In my opinion, it's, you gotta win in the trenches. As much as I have talked about our high profile receivers, I don't know how much separation they're going to get against Big Ten level talent, right? I mean, these are guys who are transferring to a MAC school kind of for a reason. They didn't get a ton of shine at these bigger programs. So I don't know how much separation they're going to get from some of these cornerbacks. But if you have a guy like Kenny Tracy in the backfield and you have a guy like Dequan Finn in the backfield, as long as that offensive line can give them enough time to find a hole, I think it could be a very, very tough day for the Badgers.
No, great stuff. Let me ask you final question on the way out. Have you thought about, I mean, some people like score predictions, some people don't. I'm fine either way. But have you thought about how this game is going to look into the fourth? Like, have you kind of thought about what that score might look like?
If I had to make a guess, I would say going into the fourth, it's probably going to be like 17-10 Badgers or 20-10 Badgers. It's going into the fourth, it's going to be a 1 to 2 possession game. I think that's when that game starts to slip away from the RedHawks a little bit. It always seems to happen, unfortunately, just over the last couple of years. But I would say 20-10 or 17-10 is kind of where my head would be at going into the fourth quarter. I do want to give a quick shout out to this is a kid who definitely does not remember that we played baseball together, but Christian Allegro. He's from my hometown in Connecticut. And I played baseball with him for like one summer or one season. But he definitely doesn't remember, but I want to give a shout out to him because he's like, I think one of the only players from Darien, Connecticut to go D1 on scholarship.
So a couple really quick things on that. I love that you brought that up as on our way out. He is probably, in my opinion, the second best player in the front seven for the Badgers right now. They picked up a guy named Mason Reiger that I think is going to be great, but Allegra's a stud. He's awesome. And I've talked to his parents. So I was in Connecticut when that recruitment was happening. I lived in Connecticut. So I'm very familiar with where that is. And I was following the story because the Badgers went and got a kid kind of in my part of the country at that time. So that's phenomenal. Yeah, I think you're gonna enjoy, maybe not enjoy watching him as a RedHawks fan, but from someone from his hometown, I think you're gonna enjoy the show he puts on Thursday night.
Absolutely.
Ted, thank you so much, man. This is phenomenal. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, can't wait for football, man. And thank you for the time. This was very insightful.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. As always, go Redhawks.
Let's go on Wisconsin, and we will talk tomorrow.